All right, this is an interesting one for me. I wrote a lot of notes because I don't know how to feel about this, and I had some time to think about it. It was an interesting situation for me personally. Now, picture this: Friday night, as you know, a Jewish Orthodox member of the community. I'm at Friday night dinner, hanging out with friends, drinking, pretty toasted, and then finally I go to sleep. I wake up, some point Saturday morning, late morning, and at about 11 o'clock, as I'm already drinking again on Saturday with friends in Shul, hanging out, somebody comes over to me and tells me about this trade. This is how I find out about this trade. So in the moment, I couldn't even process it. And then I had some time to think. Um, so I wanted to write down notes because I thought that was like the only thing I could do was write some thoughts down so I could actually give it a fair assessment. So if it looks like I'm looking down at times, I might be because it's a lot. This trade is a lot. It's big. It feels different. It feels like now this team, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on them right now. This is the time to go for it. Now they have to get it done. And a lot comes with that. So let's start with the team itself. I think this is a better team. I think this is a better fit for reasons I'll explain soon. So overall, when you look at it, the team today, are they better than they were yesterday? Probably. They have more talent. They have a center. They have probably the best player who's ever played next to Jalen Brunson. We knew, or I guess we didn't know, if Jalen Brunson could be a superstar. It seems like now we know. And now you put a great player next to him who has been a star in this league, theoretically good. Karl Anthony Towns is a really, really, really good, possibly great player. Unfortunately, he has some flaws. He's not really a team guy. He's a little bit, it seems like at times, about himself. He's not a great defender. He's not tough, doesn't get the tough, dirty, tough rebounds. And he's not smart with dumb fouls 30 feet away from the basket at times, committing bad fouls, not aware in certain situations late in games, chucking up threes, when you have a 2 point lead and 40 seconds on the clock and you want to milk it. Like different smart key basketball plays that the Knicks were so great at making every time they made the right move. You trust them down the stretch with this team that they had this past year. I don't know how much you have that now with Karl Anthony Towns. Now, Julius Randle was equally frustrating at times. And I think for a lot of the same reasons, the holding the ball because he needs to get his, and it's a Julius possession this time. I always talked about it. So he's going to be down in the low post, dribbling until it gets stripped from him, or he turns it over, or he gets triple teamed, and it seems like he's still, dead set on taking a shot in that spot. The perfect example is that Brooklyn game where you see the two sides of it, right? He gets that dunk at the end where he saves the ball from going out of bounds. Jalen passes it up to him. But right before that, the Knicks could have iced the game on a possession. And he decided, no, this is my possession. Everyone back off. Jalen didn't touch the ball. Julius went one-on-one, shot a deep three, and then in frustration fouled the Nets, and that extended the game. Like right after he missed the deep three because he was mad at himself for doing something stupid because he knew it was stupid. So Julius in situations has been extremely, extremely frustrating in the same ways that Karl Anthony Towns would be. So I don't know how much this changes. What does change now is though he's an extremely talented guy who is an ideal stretch five, as opposed to Julius. That was going to be having to shoehorn him into the five. Now we have a guy in Towns who is a stretch five. Doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective the way Julius did. Randle needed the ball in his hands. If he was going to make something happen, it was his dribble, him in the low post, him kicking out of it, him drawing the double team. But these were Julius possessions. We want the offense to run through Jalen, right? So now theoretically, you have the ball in Jalen's hands the entire time. You'll have some possessions where it's in Mikel's hands, but we were kind of wondering where does the ball go? Whose hands is it in? Is it in Mikel's? That takes away probably all the touches for DiVincenzo. Is OG going to be creating sometimes? Obviously, Julius has to get his touches, and really, ideally, you just want the ball in Jalen's hands the whole time anyway. So this puts the ball in Jalen's hands with space on the floor, and Mikel can have the ball and make something happen once in a while, but it's spacing around Jalen Brunson with the ball in his hands and everything runs through him. And there's now open space in the middle for Jalen to get to the rim and operate in the low post like he does because Karl Anthony Towns on the outside drawing the center out. Theoretically, that's what you want, right? On offense, when you watch any basketball team, this is what you want. Karl Anthony Towns, OG, they provide the shooting to stretch the floor on the two wings, or OG in the corner and Cat on the wings. OG and Mikal, they provide that toughness and that defense that you still need because that is the identity of this team still. You still have two of the top wing defenders in the league. So that's what Boston won a championship with. That's what you need. That's what you have. And everything runs through Jalen. That's ideal, right? That's theoretically what we wanted. And so while I'm not maybe a huge fan of Karl Anthony Towns in his game, I understand that he's talented and this fit is probably better. However, Donte DiVincenzo is a huge loss. That was apparently the holdup in the deal. He didn't want a smaller role, which was he was going to have. We've seen him hit big shots in big spots. And I know he wasn't great in the playoffs, but he was toughness. He brings you defense. He's the Nova guy, right? The Nova 4 that we talk so much about. We never saw them. We never saw the Nova Knicks. The Nova Knicks. All we got, the 4 of them, was pictures together, a group FaceTime, a screenshot of that. I mean, that's basically the Aaron Rodgers meme of him running onto the field, right? With the flag. That's all we got from the Nova Knicks. And so to me, it was a little bit curious. Why do you make the trade now? Like, couldn't we have waited this out and seen like what works out? Maybe start the season, see what happens. So the timing's confusing too. Now, Deuce McBride, who I love, and I love his energy, I love his defense, I love his shooting, and he made big shots and big moments also in the playoffs. He plays a huge role replacing DiVincenzo. Those bench minutes are going to be huge. You look at guys like, Shamit and some guys they've picked up. They play huge roles too. So now this changes a little bit. Now, there's another part of this where we know Karl Anthony Towns and Tibbs have a shaky past. Like, I trust Tibbs. I think Tibbs will get the most out of him, but does this put Tibbs on the hot seat where now we're a championship team? Now, if we don't win, Tibbs becomes, oh, we want him out. We obviously need someone new in here when Tibbs is the team in so many ways. And everyone runs in the Tibbs system. Like, can Karl Anthony Towns adapt into the Tibbs system, or will the system change? Will the culture change? And when you're taking guys like DiVincenzo and Julius, who have been a part of the culture out, and you're bringing in a guy like Towns, and obviously new guys that even Mikal wasn't a part of this culture ever, it really changes everything. At the end of the day, the Knicks needed a center. They got a center, so that's good, right? And every time this front office makes a move, when it's Leon and Wes, they make the right move. So theoretically, I should keep trusting them, right? Like, every time they've made a decision on anyone, and I've questioned it, it turns out they were right. This front office was right most of the time. The one mistake I think they made, they jumped the gun a little bit with the Kemba stuff that year. Not great deals. They thought they were better than they were with the Julius year, and then it turns out they weren't as good. And, Kemba was broken down. Obviously, Fournier didn't fit with Tibbs. He didn't play any defense, which we'll see how that works out now. Because you're not giving up on Towns if this doesn't work. This is the last move, and that's the biggest part of this, right? So, but I trust every move they've made. The other move I was going to say is Obi Toppin, probably not a great pick in that spot. So overall, the fit makes more sense on paper. I think they'll miss DiVincenzo and the Nova chemistry. And the question is, how much does the chemistry change their chances of winning? Like, one of the things that was so special about this team was the fact that they have chemistry together, and that felt like it helped them win because they all know each other. They play together. The things they do together as a team, it felt like the chemistry was a massive part of that. That changes now too. But it's kind of similar to the case with when they traded for OG Anunoby, right? We talked about IQ and RJ Barrett being the young guys who came up. We wanted to see them grow, part of this team. And the timing and the emotion of it and the question marks around who OG was as a player. Can he be this player who's really that good? It's very similar to this. Why now? It's months before the trade deadline. Let's see if we can make this work with RJ and IQ. We love those guys. We love the intangibles of Emmanuel Quickly. We love the intangibles of RJ Barrett. Where are they going to replace the scoring? All these questions. There was shooting of IQ. How are we going to replace that? Similar questions. The questions about OG and what does he really provide? Can he be this type of player that we're going to have to pay at the end of this year? Karl Anthony Towns already has the contract. So can he be that guy? We have question marks about him. We have question marks about losing the chemistry of Randle and obviously Donte DiVincenzo, although I don't know how much the chemistry of Randle actually was a thing because it felt like they were moving away from him a little bit, right? And the direction of the team. And then ultimately, if this team is good enough to win, and this is a winning culture still, does it affect how we watch it? Do we change? Do we get less enjoyment out of it? And now that the expectations are different and it's not a team that we fell in love with, these are a lot of new pieces. How much of a grace period does the fan base give them, right? So I could see how it works. I see how Karl Anthony Towns can work, but he has to fit into the culture. And if it were me, if I'm a betting man, I'd bet on the culture. I'd bet on Jalen. I'd bet on Tibbs. I'd bet on Josh Hart as the leaders to mold Karl Anthony Towns to them and not the other way around. But it's scary. He was at one point part of a great Minnesota team. So we know he can be an important role, play an important role on a great team, right? But he has to buy in. He has to buy into the defense, the toughness, the smart basketball. And the last part is this is the best situation he's been in his career. Throughout his entire career, this is the best situation does Karl Anthony Towns for Karl Anthony Towns ever. Does that elevate him to the best version of himself? Does that get the most out of him? I would hope so. Where's this put the Knicks? Are they now a championship team? I think they are. They have to be. This is it. This is the last move. This is the all-in move. There's no other move after this. Maybe side pieces around, but this is the last big move. That was it. Is it enough to get it done? And even if it is enough to get it done, do we enjoy watching it the same level that we enjoyed watching this past the Nova Knicks and that chemistry and Randle, who we fell in love with? I don't know. If they win and they win a championship, I think the joy from it will come. But the expectations are higher. This is a different animal than being the tough, young, scrappy team with low expectations who we feel that we love. It's a very different thing now. This is a totally different cat for the Knicks. Oh, man, that was so corny. I didn't mean that on purpose. If they struggle, the fan base is going to come for them. It's different. I think that's all. I had thought of one other thing, but I don't have a pen and paper in front of me, so I didn't write it down. Last thing. I just want to say thank you to Julius Randle because he was the first one. He came here. He started something here. He became the culture. He bought into the Thibodeau way. He made the team great. He made it an attractive place where people wanted to come play. Julius Randle is an extremely huge part of the process of what this team did. And I think that's part of why maybe today it feels tough to lose him for a guy that I've never really bought into in Karl Anthony Towns. But at the end of the day, you upgraded from a player standpoint. You got a lot better as a team on paper, and the Knicks should be better. But if the Knicks do end up hoisting that trophy, if this is the team that gets it done, that wins a championship, none of it's without Julius Randle, not only because you don't make a trade like this without sending Randle back, but what he built here, what he created with Tibbs. I think he just opened the school in New York. I think that speaks volumes. Like, he's built something here in New York with the veterans, with the former Knicks, with the young players and the new guys who came in, and Jalen and Tibbs. Julius was such a big part of that, and I don't think that should ever be forgotten in what role he plays. So whatever we see moving forward, which I think hopefully will be successful, I trust the culture. I trust Leon. I trust Wes. I trust Jalen. I hope it's going to be good. I don't know that it's going to be good. We're going to find out. But whatever level we get to, we never get there without the contribution of Julius Randle to this culture, to this organization. So that's the last piece of it. Thank you to Julius. Until next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate you all for listening. See ya.